Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and I really appreciate you being with me. We are continuing our study of the Jewish feast days. We're currently focused on the Feast of Trumpets, otherwise known as Yom Teruah, and like I mentioned yesterday, there are about 10 different names given to Yom Teruah. Rosh Hashanah is one of them. And each one of those names, each one of those designations represented some different aspect. It's a widely nuanced feast day. And it has an interplay of motifs with the Day of Atonement and Sukkot. And as I've shared with you before, as I pointed out yesterday, there is an interconnectedness between the final three feast days that should never, ever be overlooked. It should never, you can't just shove it aside. And you can't take a Jehoiakim's penknife, and start slicing and dicing. Now, are they three separate feasts? Yes, to a certain extent. But is there an interplay and interconnectedness between all three feast days? Absolutely. The Feast of Trumpets, Yom Teruah, is the time of the judgment. But wait a minute. Yom Kippur is the day on which all the books were opened. The books for what? For the judgment. The book of life, the book of death, the intermediate book. And Sukkot, Sukkot is the time of the ingathering of the saved, the elect, if you please. And so all of these are interconnectedness. Now, we've been focused on the Feast of Trumpets because it is emphatically related to the new moons of Colossians chapter 2, 16 and following, where Paul said, "Let no man judge you in respect of new moons, the feast days, and the Sabbaths," which are, a present tense in the Greek, a shadow of the good things that are about to come. From Paul's first century perspective, in approximately 62 AD, the typological foreshadowing significance of the new moons, the feast days, and the Sabbaths had not yet been fulfilled. That means that the final three feast days, especially, had not been nailed to the cross. As the great majority of Bible exegetes, to use that term, claim Paul was saying. That view violates the text. So much so, and yet that view, by the way, is so entrenched. I've shared with you before how Scott McKnight, eminent scholar of the day, Scott McKnight says, in examining the language that says these are shadows of good things are about to come, he says, because it is believed that those shadows had already been removed, already been taken out of the way, already been abrogated by Christ at the cross, then the Greek tenses are, quote, his word, reimagined. That means they're distorted. That means they're perverted. That means they are changed from their correct meaning and perverted into meaning something entirely different from what linguistics demand. Shouldn't that set off an alarm bell in our heads, ladies and gentlemen? When such an eminent scholar as Scott McKnight says, well, because of a preconceived theology, when the scholars come to the Greek of this text and the Greek refutes their theology, they just change the Greek. Folks, this is theology driving exegesis. This is theology driving hermeneutic. And that is wrong. Okay, back to the subject at hand. The Feast of Trumpets foreshadowed the judgment. Throughout the book of Revelation, as I've been sharing with you, I shared with you, first of all, that Revelation is emphatic in teaching us that the vision, one vision, not visions plural, all right, that the vision of Revelation, the time had come for it to be fulfilled. That's what John was told by Jesus, who was told by the Father to tell the churches. Revelation 1, 1-3. So, that means that whatever we're dealing with in Revelation, it was imminent when John wrote. There is absolutely no exegetical support for extrapolating the fulfillment of the book of Revelation into a yet future period of time, yet future to us even. And yet some commentators tell us that the book of Revelation and its prediction of the imminent judgment of Babylon is really not talking about any one single city. Babylon, we're told, is any city and every city. Now, how's that for vague, nebulous, ambiguous, and nonsensical? It has no merit whatsoever. By the way, I wrote an article on that. It's on my website. Is Babylon any city and every city? Just go to my website, pardon me, DonKPreston.com, BibleProphecy.com, and in the search bar, who is this Babylon or Babylon, any city or every city? You'll find the article, and you'll see how the claims by some to try to negate the specific identity of Babylon as Jerusalem, first century Jerusalem, you'll see how desperate those claims are. They are just ridiculous. And I hate speaking so strongly. But those who are making that claim, they're calling preterists heretics literally because we honor what the text says. They take the language of Revelation, they twist it, they turn it into a silly, putty, nebulous ball of nonsense, and that's orthodox. And those of us who take the evidence of the book of Revelation and we show the historical fulfillment in the first century, we are the heretics. How's that for a reversal of roles? I gotta go on. Sorry about that. I just had to get that in there. So when we come to the book of Revelation, guess what? We find an awful lot about Yom Teruah. We find an awful lot about trumpets. And we find a lot about judgment. So, Feast of Trumpet represented judgment. The book of Revelation is focused in great extent on the trumpets and the judgment. Now, as a prelude to what we're about to see, remember that in Revelation chapter 6, John said, I saw under the altar, hang on to that, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and the testimony which they held. And they cried out, how long, O Lord, holy and true, do you not avenge us? Watch this, on those who dwell on the earth. And they were given white robes, and they were told to rest for a little while longer. Microchronon, or oligon chronon, excuse me. I believe that's correct. Not 2,000 years, not 5,000 years, not even 400 years, but a short period of time until their fellow brethren and saints who should be slain as they were should be fulfilled. This is the filling up of the measure of sin. Now in Revelation chapter 6, 12 and following, what do we find? We find the answer to their prayer. What was their prayer? Vengeance on those who dwell on the earth, those who had slain them. This is metaphoric language, ladies and gentlemen. It's hyperbolic language. So we have the martyrs crying out for vindication. Vindication would come in just a little while on those who dwell on the earth. That prayer was uttered by those under the altar. Now we come to chapter 8, and I'm skipping over chapter 7 for time consideration. he broke the seal of the seventh, or broke the seventh seal. There was silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and seven trumpets were given to them. And another angel came and stood at the altar. What altar? The altar of chapter 6, under which were the martyrs, crying out for vengeance on those who dwell on the earth. And he was holding a golden censer, and much incense was given to him, that he might add it to the prayers of all of the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the Lord, which is before the throne. You see the altar, the martyrs, the prayers. It's all the same. Now we're just given more information. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints. What was the prayer of the saints? How long, O Lord, do you not avenge us on those who dwell on the earth, those who had killed them? They want vengeance on those on the earth. All right. Verse 5. The angel took the censer and he filled it with the fire of the altar and threw it to the earth. And there followed peals of thunder and sounds and flashes of lightning and earthquake. And the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound them. The first angel sounded. Now remember, what is about to happen is to happen on the earth, about which the martyrs have cried, how long do you not avenge us on those who dwell on the earth? So the seven angels sound, and what happens on the earth? First sounded, there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, and a third of the trees were burned up. The second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. Well, where's the sea? Oh, it's on the earth. And a third of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. A third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on the third of the rivers and on the springs of water. Where are the rivers and the springs? On the earth. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter. Well, where are these men who are dying? On the earth. And the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun, and a third of the sun, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars were smitten, so that the third of them might be darkened, and the day might be darkened, and the day might not shine for a third of it, and the night in the same way. Well, now we have an expanded scope. Sun, moon, and stars. And I looked and I heard an angel flying in mid-heaven saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to those who dwell on the earth, because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of the three angels. See, we've had four, and there are seven. But there are three who are about to sound. Now, about to sound in the Greek is from milonton, a present participle active. It meant they're just ready to sound. They don't have to wait 20,000 years. They're about to sound. But where's the focus of this? On the earth. What is happening? It's judgment. It's Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah. Then, of course, in chapter 9, you have the fifth angel. And I saw a star from heaven, which had fallen to the earth, and the key of the bottomless pit was given to it. Verse 13, the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar. What's the altar? It's where the martyrs are, under the altar. One saying to the sixth angel who had the trumpet, release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. And the four angels who had been prepared for the hour and the day and the month and the year were released so that they might kill a third of mankind. Where are mankind? On the earth. I hope you see the point I'm making, and time doesn't permit, but we go to chapter 10 now. Verse 6 and 7. I saw another strong angel coming down out of heaven, clothed with a cloud, and the rainbow was upon his head. And his face was like the sun, and his feet like pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book which was open, and he placed his right hand on the sea and his left on the land. See, earth, land, sea. By the way, who do you suppose this is? Interesting question, is it not? And he cried with a loud voice as when a lion roars, and when he had cried out, the seven peals of thunder uttered their voices. And when the seven peals of thunder had spoken, I was about to write. Oh, that's mellow. I was about to write. You suppose John was saying, well, one of these years, I thought I might write it down. No, he was on the point of doing it. That's the meaning of mellow. But the voice said, seal up the things which the seven peals of thunder have spoken, do not write them. And the angel whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land lifted up his right hand to heaven, swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created the heaven and the things in it, the earth, things in it, and the sea, things in it, that there should be delay no longer. Delay in what? Well, at the end of the fourth trumpet, we have the designation or the announcement of the final three. But you have evidently a very, very small interval between them and the final three. But now the angel declares there will be delay no longer. Delay in what? Delay in fulfillment of the sounding of the final trumpet. The final judgment. Verse 7. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he is about to sound, sounding the seventh trumpet, the mystery of God is finished, as he preached to his servants, the prophets. 7 angels, 7 trumpets, responding to the prayer of the saints under the altar for vengeance, for judgment on those who are on the earth. And the 7th angel sounds, the last trumpet sounds, and what happens? The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ. The time has come for the judgment. The time has come to reward the saints and the prophets. The 7th angel sounds at the time of the resurrection. We thus have Yom Teruah leading into Yom Kippur, leading into Sukkot. I really like what Peter Leithart says on Revelation 11:15 and following. He says the only thing that is left to do in Revelation 11:15 and following is the resurrection itself. I think he's accurate, because we have the announcement of judgment back here in chapter 8 into chapter 9, and now the consummative trumpet, the last trumpet, is sounded. It's the time of the dead that they should be judged. Folks, do you see how Revelation is drawing on festal imagery? It is part and parcel of the actual warp and woof of the book of Revelation. I did not see this for years because I was so blinded by tradition. If we fail to understand the fundamental relationship between the fulfillment of Israel's feast days and the book of Revelation, we will never, ever understand the book of Revelation. Hey, go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com, and order my book, Who is This Babylon? All right, just go to the store, look up Who is This Babylon, order the book. And if you'll send me a note saying you saw the offer on YouTube or Facebook, I'll refund your shipping. That's going to save you $7.50. All right. Thanks so much for joining me. We've got more on how Revelation plays into the final feast days on the flip side. See you there.